Mayim Bialik counters Sheldon actor's comments on a potential The Big Bang Theory reboot. With all due respect to Jim, when The Big Bang Theory ended in 2019 after 12 seasons, it left behind a legacy few sitcoms can match. Not only did the CBS juggernaut redefine the geek-chic genre on television, it also cultivated one of the most passionate fan bases of the modern era. Ever since the curtain fell on Leonard, Penny, Sheldon, and company, rumors of a reboot or reunion have consistently bubbled up online. Fans pine for updates, speculative headlines pop up every few months, and the cast is constantly fielding questions about returning to Pasadena's most famous apartment building. Recently, Jim Parsons, the man behind the socially awkward, deeply brilliant Sheldon Cooper, addressed these rumors yet again. Speaking at a TV festival panel, Parsons reiterated his belief that the series had ended at the right time and that a full-fledged reboot didn't seem necessary. "We did our story," he reportedly said. "It's nice to leave something when it still feels good rather than run it into the ground." His comments, predictably, sparked new rounds of debate across social media about whether the actors themselves were the obstacle to a reboot or if CBS simply hadn't found the right angle. This week, Mayim Bialik, Amy Farrah Fowler herself, added fuel to that conversation with her own comments. In a new interview, Bialik gently but pointedly countered Parsons' take, acknowledging his perspective while suggesting that the door might not be as firmly closed as some fans fear. Her remark, with all due respect to Jim, may be playful, but it carries weight for fans still holding out hope for a return to Caltech and the Cheesecake Factory, a tale of two post-TBBT careers. Part of what makes Bialik's remarks so fascinating is how differently she and Parsons have approached life after The Big Bang Theory. Parsons, who earned 4 Emmys for his portrayal of Sheldon, has largely pivoted to behind-the-scenes roles. He narrated and produced Young Sheldon, appeared on Broadway in The Boys in the Band, and has shown little desire to slip back into his most famous role. Bialik, meanwhile, has embraced a diverse portfolio. She co-hosted Jeopardy! For a time, launched her own podcast, and stars in the Fox sitcom Call Me Kat. Yet unlike Parsons, she frequently speaks about the impact The Big Bang Theory had on her life and career. In previous interviews, she's called Amy Farrah Fowler one of the most rewarding characters she's ever played, praising the way the show depicted female scientists and neurodivergent relationships. So when she addressed the reboot question this week, it felt like more than just boilerplate PR. It was a statement from someone who still holds the show close to her heart. With all due respect to Jim, Bialik's actual quote has already gone viral among TBBT fans. Greater than, with all due respect to Jim, I think there's always room to revisit something that brought so much joy. Television is about stories, and stories don't necessarily end just because we stop filming them. She continued, "Greater than, we've all grown, our characters would have grown. I'd be lying if I said I haven't thought about where Amy and Sheldon might be now. That doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow, but it does mean I'm open to the idea." That subtle pushback on Parsons' sentiment, without contradicting him outright, was enough to electrify fans. For some, it felt like the first real green shoot of possibility after years of the cast uniformly echoing Parsons' no reboot stance. Reading between the lines, Bialik's remarks aren't an outright promise. She's far too savvy for that. Yet, by emphasizing that television characters can continue evolving off-screen, she's hinting at a truth of modern entertainment. No franchise is truly finished anymore. Consider the resurgence of classic sitcoms over the last decade. Will and Grace returned for 3 revival seasons on NBC. Roseanne re-emerged as The Connors. Frasier has been rebooted by Paramount+. Even the notoriously elusive cast of Friends reunited for a special on HBO Max. In that context, a Big Bang Theory reboot doesn't sound outlandish. Bialik's comments also align with CBS's ongoing expansion of the TBBT universe. Young Sheldon, which started as a modest spin-off, has become a ratings powerhouse in its own right. A second spin-off is reportedly in the works at Chuck Lorre's production company. The appetite is clearly there, both from fans and from the network. Why Amy matters to the future of TBBT. Another reason Bialik's voice carries weight is the character she played. Amy Farrah Fowler arrived in Season 3 as a kind of female Sheldon clone, but over the years, she became one of the emotional anchors of the show. Her relationship with Sheldon evolved from awkward courtship to one of the most heartfelt arcs on network TV, culminating in their joint Nobel Prize win in the finale. A reboot centered partly on Amy and Sheldon's married life would practically write itself. Would they still be in Pasadena? Would they have children? How would their careers as Nobel laureates progress? Would Amy's friendships with Penny and Bernadette still be as strong? Bialik has acknowledged pondering these very questions, hinting that she's thought about potential storylines, and she wouldn't have to shoulder the burden alone. Kaylee Cuoco Penny has said in past interviews that she would never say never to revisiting the role. Johnny Galecki Leonard remains fond of the show. Even Parsons, while firm about his current disinterest, has never slammed the door completely. The reboot versus reunion debate. One interesting aspect of Bialik's comments is how they might signal a shift from talk of a reboot to talk of a reunion or special. Fans often conflate the two, but they're very different prospects. A reboot usually involves reimagining a series with new actors or a new timeline. Think How I Met Your Father. A reunion special brings back the original cast for either a one-off episode, a TV movie, or a limited series continuation. Given how iconic Parsons Sheldon is, a true reboot with a different actor would be a hard sell. But a reunion? That's much more realistic. Bialik seems to understand this nuance. By talking about characters growing rather than being recast, she's implicitly advocating for a continuation rather than a remake. In an era when streaming platforms crave familiar IP to lure subscribers, a Big Bang Theory special set a decade after the finale would almost certainly be a ratings bonanza. Fan reaction: give us anything. If the goal of Bialik's comments was to stir up conversation, it worked. Within hours, hashtags like #BigBangReboot and #AmyInSheldon were trending on X, formerly Twitter. Many fans shared memes of Amy raising an eyebrow at Sheldon, joking that she's dragging Jim back to Pasadena whether he likes it or not. Others expressed gratitude for Bialik's openness, noting that it felt validating to hear at least one cast member publicly acknowledge the desire for more. Some speculated that Bialik's remarks might be a strategic move, testing the waters to gauge interest before CBS makes any formal announcement. Either way, the excitement underscores how deeply The Big Bang Theory embedded itself into pop culture. Even 5 years after its finale, people are still emotionally invested in these characters' lives. Jim Parsons' perspective isn't the villain. While Bialik's comments have generated headlines, it's important not to frame Parsons as the villain of the reboot conversation. His perspective, that the show ended on a high note, is both valid and understandable. Parsons shouldered immense pressure as the face of TBBT for over a decade. His decision to step away when he did arguably preserve the show's integrity. In fact, Parsons has been supportive of the franchise's continued success. He continues to narrate young Sheldon and frequently praises the cast and crew in interviews. His reluctance to return likely stems from self-preservation rather than disdain. Bialik, with all due respect, acknowledges that dynamic. She's not undermining Parsons so much as expanding the conversation to include fans' hopes. A glimpse at what could be. If CBS were to greenlight a Big Bang Theory continuation tomorrow, what might it look like? Here's one possible outline inspired by Bialik's comments. Time jump. The story picks up 8 to 10 years after the finale. Sheldon and Amy are established Nobel winners navigating academia, parenthood, and fame.